Hey everybody, welcome to What the Flick, Twin Peaks: The Return, episode 16. Holy shit! Scott's back. Alonso, Meredith.
Hello. And we're just gonna let Scott handle this one for the whole episode.
Pretty much.
I just get to sit back and rake in the cash.
Right. So much to unpack.
Yeah.
Finally, though.
Yeah, I know. This is the formula of cable shows and maybe network shows. I'm not watching as many. Has been of late that the next to last episode of the season is where shit goes down. Yeah. And this is, I know, the third or second to last because there's 2 next week. But week-wise, this is the next to last week, and so many questions are answered, and so many other questions are not answered.
Well, Dougie did appear in 3 and died in 15, 3:15. It was true.
It was
right.
You're
right about now we got Agent Cooper back.
What lottery number should I pick this week?
But it was a little weird when they played that Twin Peaks music in Vegas. I thought that was a little like. It just seemed a little, I just didn't love that. The music was weird to me.
It felt like it was going on so long that it was supposed to be making us uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know? Like I was like, oh, is this a bit now where it's gonna go on and on like this? Like there's something weirdly distracting about
It worked for me though, because first off, because Coop is back, and we've only had like one particularly prominent moment where they really brought back Angelo Badalamenti's original Twin Peaks theme when
Bobby saw Laura.
When Bobby saw Laura's picture. So this is the moment you've been waiting for. Twin Peaks is officially back. Only 2.5 episodes left. Sorry about that. But in addition to that, though, what I kind of liked about it was we didn't just get Cooper back. We got to see Cooper with Janie E and Sonny Jim. And this is the moment I was waiting for, to see if he was going to kind of have to reject them and say, I'm sorry, this was a whole weird thing. Or if he was gonna embrace it. And what I'm seeing here is that Cooper really does feel a deep connection to these people. Dougie, I guess, was made with his DNA. Like, it's just, Sonny Jim is kind of his son.
Well, either Cooper made him or evil Cooper made Dougie.
I think.
So now I'm starting to think, I think actually Cooper made him.
I think evil Cooper made Dougie because Dougie was a slime ball.
Yeah.
So I think he took up some of those, and that's why I think
he's going to make a new Dougie. He's going to be nice and good to the family.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think sort of the underlying thing to me was sort of like if Dougie was, if we want to treat him as though he were an undercover identity of Cooper's, which I'm not saying that's what's happening, but I'm saying Cooper's attitude toward the family being like, to leave them in a way to make them feel good and makes them feel cared for, and not just like, wasn't me, see ya.
But I don't even know if it's that. I honestly think when you look at the original series, Cooper was very eager to have a normal life in Twin Peaks. He wanted love, he wanted a family.
Well, he's already lost 2 women, Caroline and Annie.
Exactly.
And then he lost Jenny E.
So. Yeah, well, he hasn't lost her yet. But like, and I think when he says he's coming back to them, I honestly think he means that. I think that Twin Peaks music is indicative of almost like, this is the happy ending for Coop. And he'll get back to this, hopefully, if he survives. This is like, if he had just sort of ended up at the end of the series with a quick denouement, oh, by the way, he got married and had a kid, it would mean nothing. But here he spent time with them, and as a result, he has this connection with them.
But he's not going back to them.
No, you don't think he's making another him to be Dougie.
He's making a new Dougie to send back to them.
With the seed.
That red, when I come through the red door, that's going to be Dougie. He's sending another Dougie back, and he's on his way now to Twin Peaks to rescue his sleeping beauty, Audrey Horne. Right?
That's where he's going. That would appear to be the where we're going. Let's jump to that. So Audrey and Charlie show up at the Roadhouse. I was like, oh my God, it's a thing, and it's true, and she's awake. And
very similarly to how suddenly all this time we've been waiting for the Las Vegas FBI to find Dougie, they finally connected, and it's like, oh, Dougie exists in the real world. He's real. And in the same way, Audrey walked into the Roadhouse, and seemingly we all thought, oh, she's real too.
Right.
She's real. Charlie's real. It's all real, except
that it's not. And so now that calls into question, well, then has everything happening at the Roadhouse this season been happening inside Audrey's head? And what does that mean for James and the British guy with the glove? Freddie, who
and Shelley and Renee.
Is Trent Reznor real? I don't even know.
We assume are real people because they're now in jail, you know.
Well, it would seem like from the very beginning, they've been getting all these A-list bands to play in the Roadhouse, which seemed unlikely, which maybe is this because the Roadhouse is a dream. Maybe, here's just a simple theory. Maybe Audrey, let's say Audrey was in a coma. Let's say she's lying in a hospital bed, and somewhere in the hospital there's a radio playing music. And when ZZ Top comes on, someone cranks it up. And so the music is wafting out over the hospital, and all the other patients are female because everyone who's appeared in that booth has been female. So maybe, maybe the other patients are gossiping about nurses or visitors or doctors are gossiping about the real world of Twin Peaks. That's just one theory. It could be a coma that Audrey's in. She could be in a mental institution. But because of what we saw with Diane, now I think there's also a strong argument that Audrey may be in a lodge somewhere. Because remember what Diane said when Diane finally had her breakdown, and we find out that's actually not Diane, it's a tulpa, it's a doppelganger of Diane. And Diane said, I'm in the sheriff's station. Well, that probably means that who's in the sheriff's station is NATO, who's probably Diane. And NATO backwards is almost Diane, right? So maybe NATO and Diane are the same person. But what's more important is that like,
who's Charlie?
Right, exactly. But Diane said, I feel like I'm not me. I'm not myself. She said, I'm not me. That's the same thing Audrey was saying to Charlie. I feel like I'm not myself. Do you ever have that feeling? So maybe because Evil Cooper raped both of them, maybe he put them both in a lodge. Maybe Audrey is not in a coma or in a mental institution. Maybe she's in a lodge somewhere.
Well, and you have that supported at the end by, first off, I don't know, I think we all thought it was just a callback aesthetic. You have the red curtains behind every performer at the Roadhouse. But also the closing credits of this episode was the band at the Roadhouse playing backwards.
Yeah.
So there you go. I mean, I don't know.
Well, it's interesting because they say, and now Audrey's dance. So clearly Audrey starts dancing and then it's interrupted by one man yelling at another man, that's my wife. And so they go into a soap opera fight, which mimics everything we've seen in the Frank booth. All those women talking about gossipy soap opera plots, like melodrama. So now there's another bit of melodrama going on. So maybe Audrey is somehow in a coma watching Invitation to Love, or something is going on. Or like, maybe, like who knows what's happening, but clearly, wherever she is, she's got some tie to the real world, unless the entire show is a dream, which I doubt they're gonna do. And I don't think they're gonna make Shelley and James a dream, but like there's some weird division between what's real and what's a dream that we don't know yet.
Or maybe there's a real Roadhouse and a fake Roadhouse and we just,
Or maybe sometimes we're in the Roadhouse, it's real, like when we see Shelley and James. And maybe other times when we see those women gossiping in the booth and we see these amazing bands, maybe that's a dream. But we did also see Richard in that booth, so it's hard to say.
Well, we've also I mean, there's the real Roadhouse and there's a Roadhouse and a dream. Let's assume that all of that's true. So, but we know for a fact that the Roadhouse is a real place. And we've seen scenes at the Roadhouse that are kind of lame, like just Jacques, or one of the Renault brothers.
Jean-Michel.
Jean-Michel, just hanging out behind the bar, having lousy conversations. It doesn't seem like it's a big night. Again, it's always been really implausible that the Roadhouse would have this good talent behind it.
But that sweeping scene, maybe that's the real Roadhouse.
Yeah, well, just think about when James had his big hero moment.
Or that's when the orderly comes through to sweep up in Audrey's room.
Right.
But my point is that when James had his big performance,
maybe that was a dream.
I don't think James is that big.
Maybe that's a fantasy.
Yeah, I think it might be Audrey's fantasy.
But is Audrey having a fantasy of James? I don't think we ever saw James and Audrey together except for in the pilot when they were in the classroom together.
Well, I mean, she knew him.
Yeah, but
she knew him.
But you know how dreams are. People that you sort of only tangentially know pop up.
But Audrey wasn't there when he sang "Just You and I" with Maddie and Donna.
That's true. But maybe she heard the music. I mean, he probably shopped that around. We had that bit in I think it was the pilot. Where Shelley was talking about James in the booth, and she was saying James was always cool. A, she never really had any screen time with James to speak of either. B, James was never cool. So I don't know. So it's it's dream logic. I mean, it could just work either way.
There is the thing also that Diane says that after Bob raped her, he took her to the old gas station,
which is the convenience store.
Right.
And he clearly left her there, right? And and then somehow she turned into NATO, who then when Cooper came into the purple room, NATO was like, no, don't go into the plug that's Mark III. They go up on the roof, they throw the switch. Now it's his 15. Now it's safe for him to go through. So she's still protecting him somehow, and then she falls off into space, and then ends up in Twin Peaks, and now she's in the sheriff. I mean, is she NATO? Is Diane NATO? Where is Diane?
It's certainly a possibility, and I think obviously you were talking about how everybody who's in the jail is going to turn out to be important, and clearly everybody's headed for Twin Peaks. Bob is headed there, Cooper's headed there, and so there is a confluence going on that I think that all is going to happen around those people.
Yeah, well, it looks like Evil Cooper is already in Twin Peaks because
Jerry Horn
ran out of the woods, so like they're clearly nearby,
and clearly close, certainly. And this is. The Jerry Horn sequence was just sort of, partially it's weird just because he's watching through the wrong end of the binoculars. But Jerry Horn is seeing like his grandnephew die.
Oh, you're right. I didn't even remember they were related. You're right.
In addition to that, because you see him freaking out, and we know he's been on a lot of weird drugs, and he's been lost in the woods. He's probably dehydrated, but he's also just watched a family member explode on a rock. Which
was clearly a trap set for Evil Cooper. So the two of the coordinates were fake, sending him to that rock to kill him.
Now you've been keeping track of all of this math and stuff. Who gave him the wrong coordinates? coordinates because 2 people gave him.
Well, 3 people gave him coordinates: Diane, Ray, and Jeffries.
But Diane gave him coordinates after that, didn't she?
So yeah. I don't know. Yeah, it did seem like she gave him.
She gave him numbers,
but she
after
also gave them to him earlier, didn't she?
Yeah, she.
Who had the ones where like the last 2 numbers were blurry?
I cannot keep track of who has what coordinates and who gave him what.
Oh God, if you don't know.
Yeah, it's very confusing. I don't understand.
We trusted you.
I'm sorry. That was too much, even for me.
You had 1,000 jobs. All right. So yeah. So I mean, was it a reveal that Bob is Richard's son? Did we not kind of figure that out?
I think we all knew that.
Yeah.
I think we could speculate forever, or they could just tell us at some point. I think they did.
The only thing that tells us, though, is that Evil Cooper raped Audrey when he got out of his hospital room. He went in, raped her while she was in a coma. She gave birth to Richard. Because he raped Audrey and she's now in some mystical place, that's connected to Diane, who was raped by Evil Cooper, who then ended up in some mystical place. Right. So those 2 women are now connected. How or where they are, I don't know.
Okay, so then, meanwhile, we have Chantal and Hutch showing up to kill Dougie in what becomes a violent comedy of errors.
That was so.
And they were killed by Zawaski, the Polish accountant.
Yes.
Now, the letter Z in his name is important because if you think back to the glass box in the beginning of the season.
Oh, right.
Because Tracy kept coming with coffee, and on the coffee cups it said Z because she worked in Z Coffee Shop and she had a Z in her lapel. And when Dougie goes into the lobby of his building and goes to the coffee shop to get the pie that saves him from the Mitchell brothers, the coffee shop is called Zymon's Bakery with a big Z in it. And who played in the Roadhouse? ZZ Top, and that zebra is out again. No, I'm serious. The Z is very important.
Now tell me every time the letter A has shown up in this series.
And also, Dougie
Audrey begins with that.
Stop.
Dougie works for Lucky 7 Insurance. What happens if you put a 7 on top of a 7? You get a Z. And what happens if you turn them to the side? You get. What does this look like to you?
No.
It's the floor of the Red Room.
I was gonna say it looks like Twin Peaks.
And who says Z, 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 Z? Someone who is sleeping, a dreamer. I mean, that's just a random theory which may go nowhere, but I saw it online from John Thorne, editor of Blue Rose Magazine. You should all get Blue Rose Magazine.
I like it.
I think you're right. That's why I'm just sitting here because I've been trying to unpack a lot of this in my brain. Like, I want to go back now and rewatch.
Oh yeah.
Oh hell yeah.
Well, but before next week because I think there's a lot to be said about the Roadhouse scenes and which is real and which is in Audrey's headspace and like.
Well, I already broke down the entire Roadhouse, all the conversations in the booth,
okay,
who we see, who we don't see,
okay, perfect.
what we learned about them.
Who was discussed.
I tweeted a chart about it last night, which you can see. So,
what's your Twitter hashtag?
At Scotty the P, I have a chart breaking down the entire Roadhouse.
It's on his Chiron.
I feel like I need to rewatch this because all the little things that I thought I saw, I'm like, okay, no, it's all making sense. Also, I still think like Jerry, looking at those binoculars backwards, I wonder if what he saw was something different because he was looking through the binoculars. Like that was the impression I got last night. I think being able to see backwards is why he was able to do that.
Oh, right, because he saw it backwards. Yeah, right, you're right.
It was pointed out to me by my friend Gary that the tone, the sound they hear in the hospital room before
is the same as the one in the Great Northern Hotel.
The same as one in the Great Northern Hotel.
Which means it's probably not Josie. Which means, because all along I've been like, oh, that's Josie. Josie's spirit is trapped in the wood of the hotel, right? Because she got pulled in the drawer pull.
That was what I assumed too.
But now, and then when James went down to that door in the basement of the Great Northern Hotel, that's probably the door on which the other side is NATO saying, my mother's gonna come in here any minute. But when they're banging on that door is the same hum, which is the same hum in Dougie's hospital room. So that hum is just a connection to the Red Room. I thought it was a little weird when they can reach in and out of the Red Room, handing the gold ball and the hair back and forth.
But the ring.
At some point, we just have to get that ring back in the real world. I mean, how else do you want to do it?
Yeah.
Well, but
we do have to wrap things up. We do only have a couple episodes left.
But I think one of the reasons that that Cooper is able to take the ring out of the Red Room from the one-armed man is because if you remember back to the very, very beginning of this season, the first thing we ever saw was the fireman, also known as the Giant, sitting in his black and white palace talking to Cooper and saying to him that it's in our house now. You have to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, Richard and Linda. I think actually Agent Cooper, remember when he woke up and he's right with it and he gets right back on the case? That's because Agent Cooper is now an agent of the White Lodge. He's now a force for good. He's like the Giant. He's just he's like the reverse of Bob. He's a good agent going out into the world to do good things. So in those 25 years, he wasn't just in stasis, he was in some sort of mythological training to be a good guy. That's what it seems like.
Let me ask you a question. In that opening scene, when Coop was with the fireman in the first episode, the fireman tells him to remember 3 numbers. I think it was 310?
430.
430.
430, yeah.
But the digits were 430.
And we've never heard that agaad.
Yeah, that's what I keep waiting for.
And we don't know who Linda is. He says Richard and Linda. We don't know who Linda is. I'm guessing, well, we did hear about a Linda. When Harry Dean Stanton was in the van and he took that guy into town, and the guy said, I'm going to get Linda's medication. She's a war veteran. His wife, we think it's his wife. He said Linda. So maybe Linda lives in the trailer park. Maybe Linda is also a daughter of Evil Coop. Maybe Linda is Annie's daughter. That's a total guess. I have no idea. But Linda also exists somewhere. But we've never heard 430 again. We've never heard Linda's name again.
But there's 2 episodes to go.
2 episodes to go. Diane's reveal. I think there's this moment where she sees the text.
Yeah.
And I need to praise the hell out of Laura Dern's performance because she gives this moment. It's like she immediately, like everything comes crashing down where she was like convinced that she was real. And now she's not, and now she needs to go and try to kill everybody. And they really sell that moment really great. The suspense is real simple. Just the bag on her lap. It's classic Hitchcockian suspense. She reaches in, but she gets the cigarettes. We're just waiting and waiting and waiting for this moment, and then she vanishes into the Black Lodge in a really cool effect. It's cheap, but it's awesome. Just pounds through.
That one was cool.
That effect was cool. The effect of her face breaking apart
and her body going all in the lodge. That was terrible.
Someone has pointed out online that David Lynch likes these cheap special effects. He made a lot of these short films on DL.com, which are a lot of very cheap, early graphics, which I personally found really bizarre, but it's exactly what happened to Dougie. Dougie fell apart in the same way.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, it's not that they didn't have the budget. I'm sure they had the budget if they wanted to. This is just Lynch.
He likes it.
This is what and a lot of it is done like very, not practical, but like tape to tape. It's not usually done in like After Effects. They might now, he might be, but I still feel like a lot of this editing might be harkening back to like the work he did in like the 80s, 70s, 80s, and early 90s.
Right, some of those short films.
I really feel like it breezed that.
What I think is really notable is that David Lynch isn't trying to pretend what he's doing is realistic.
No.
I think that's what happens a lot with a lot of the more sophisticated visual effects have gotten, the more plausible they have needed to get. Whereas for many, indeed the majority of cinema, the crazier thing you were trying to visualize with the visual effect, the more aware people were that it was a visual effect because of course it had to be, and you were using photographic effects where you could see the seams, you could see the wires on the monsters, etc. I don't think David Lynch is trying to pretend. I think he's perfectly aware that that there is artifice here and that this is not reality, and I think he is trying to break you of that. The acceptance that there's a reality to this, and that you need to accept that what you are watching is dreamlike, and it's just not going to be that convincing all the time.
I just gotta say, some of those special effects are so cheap they look like I did them. They're just, they look like. I think
that's great.
Even Ruth Davenport's head and the body and the blood and the blanket, it's like some of it just like looks really cheap, but maybe that's okay. Maybe that's just what he wants.
It's just a stylized decision, is what I feel. He's just like, hey, I get to still do this when people expect a much larger production value. He's like, no, I'm just going to keep it basic and go back to my roots. And I appreciate that decision on his part.
I think DIY is a beautiful aesthetic, honestly. I think everything from Michael Mann, when he shoots his films on digital, he allows the digital noise to come in through. You're just aware.
That's what Lynch did with Inland Empire. He was like, it looks great, looks like early film. But going back to something you said about Diane, we were seeing 2 Dianes in that moment. We were seeing her as good Diane, remember that once she was like, oh, I remember Coop. Oh my God, I hope this will help him. But she's also taking the evil instructions from Evil Cooper. We're seeing both Dianes collapsing in upon themselves in that moment in the hotel, right?
Well, and that's my thing. That's one of the reasons why I'm not 100% convinced yet. We'll see that he's going to send another Dougie out there, because if he was indeed a tulpa of Coop who has now been infected with actual Coop, however the hell that works. It sounds like he actually has memories of Dougie. Like he actually probably does have Dougie's experiences within him, and as a result, he is at least part Dougie, right?
But if that's true, why would he tell the one-armed man to make another one of him and give him the?
He's not going back there. He's sending someone back, but he's not going back. He's going to be with Audrey.
Well, no.
The whole point of the first 2 seasons was to get Cooper Cooper together with Audrey.
But think about it this way, and I'm not saying you're wrong. Honestly, it's a very plausible theory. You're probably right. But here's just another opportunity because Twin Peaks, I think, is more interesting when it's not predictable. So here's another theory. As in the final episode of the original series of Twin Peaks, Dale goes to the lodge, and there's another Dale in there. All right, and he's fighting off the other Dale. What if in order to get Bob back in the lodge, both Dales need to go back there, and then Dale needs another body here? In order to come back in.
I mean, my mind is scrambling as I'm trying to, but maybe.
He's got to shove himself in, they got to both go in the portal like at the end of Monster Squad, but then the good Frankenstein monster has another Frankenstein monster to download into.
Well,
this makes sense in my brain.
I don't think Dale's coming back. I don't think Good Coop is ever, I think he's going to complete this mission and then he returns to whichever lodge.
To the fireman.
I think he chose because he saw what his doppelganger's tulpa wrecked on this family, and also given the Janie E's connection to Diane, I think this is Coop doing one last good deed for this family that has obviously suffered because of Dark Cooper inadvertently.
Well, remember in the early part of this season when Laura whispered in Coop's ear and he kind of recoiled like, I think she was telling him this is what's happened in the last 25 years. Your doppelganger is out there doing all these horrible things. Anyway, go ahead, you were not finished.
No, that was, and that's why I feel like we're gonna have the new Dougie Tulpa that's just gonna make Janie E happy. And Coop is going to Twin Peaks and he's going to solve this problem, but he's not coming back to the real world. He's done.
He's gonna save Audrey. He's gonna save. They're gonna save Audrey.
I'm sure he's gonna save Audrey, but here's what it boils down to for me. Here's the reason why I still have doubts about this theory of yours. Again, you're probably right. You're right about everything, but
not always.
I'll throw this out there. I don't recall ever seeing Cooper lie. Cooper is very definitively not a liar, and he will tell people harsh truths. He will let people down and tell them this is the way things are.
But if a doppelganger is coming back to them, it's as good as him coming back as far as they're concerned. So maybe that's just his way of.
Even that seems like a lie coming from Coop. That's it. Even that seems like a stretch. He would say Dougie is coming back to you because Janie E knows that that's not really Dougie right now. She confronts him and says as much. He does not need to lie about.
Who is this guy who speaks complete sentences? You're not my husband.
That's why I think he's sending a Dougie back, because coming back as Dale would just be disingenuine.
I'm pretty sure he's sending. I'm putting my money on they're sending a doppelganger of Cooper as Dougie back to Las Vegas. Cooper will go to Twin Peaks, kill evil Cooper, save Audrey in some way. The whole show's gonna end on some weird cliffhanger to give us another 25 years or another year to figure out what's going on. There's gonna be some weird twist. There are so many questions they haven't answered. Who is Linda? Who is NATO? Who is Judy? Who is Judy?
Who is Judy? Did you hear about that? I love this. I saw this online. So who is Judy? Who else have we been talking about who isn't here right now? Garland Briggs.
Yeah, it might
Judy
be
Garland.
code name. Yeah, possibly.
Maybe.
David Lynch is not afraid of Wizard of Oz references.
Well, it's nothing but Wizard of Oz. Even Audrey is living in the Wizard of Oz herself. The world that she's seeing is a funhouse mirror of what's actually going on with her. So,
speaking of which, and not to get back into the vortex of is the Roadhouse real or not, do we think the specific choice of Eddie Vedder for this episode was to mirror the fact that Coop is back for the first time since the 90s, and Eddie Vedder, while he never went away, is somebody who sort of had his peak in the 90s?
I thought,
wow, maybe so. I would never have thought of that. But
that's another Gary observation. I can't claim
what I think is interesting is that Eddie Vedder is not playing himself. I think that's interesting.
Well, he was going by
that's his real name.
That's his real name.
That's his real name?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought that was.
I had to Wikipedia.
Yeah,
but
Eddie Vedder was actually playing most true to himself in this.
I guess my point was that there's a revelation involved in that. This is the honest to God truth. This is the genuine.
Well, if Dougie is no longer turned back into Coop and Eddie Vedder is turned back into his original name, I mean, maybe it's from the 90s. I don't know. Maybe that's a good theory. I like that.
No, I think it's.
But I mean, just so I can say this out loud and remember it. We start with Cooper in the lodge, Dougie and Evil Bob both on this plane of existence in the same body.
Yes.
Or in bodies that are similar. Dougie dies, leaves behind the ring and the seed. Coop comes back through the plug and assumes his body. How were there two Coops in this?
Well, it sounds like what happened is in the season finale of the second season, the original season finale 25 years ago, Cooper went into the Black Lodge and a doppelganger was created of him, and the doppelganger went out into the real world. And the doppelganger was possessed by Bob. The doppelganger is not Bob. It's some being that has Bob inside of him, because we've seen Evil Cooper say, "Oh, I've still got Bob in me." So that guy's been out in the world, and then he at some point took some of his hair and took a seed and made a Dougie. And that was his plan to avoid going back into the lodge. So then Dougie's out there.
To send Dougie back in his place.
To send Dougie back in his place. And then Cooper comes out of the lodge, good Cooper, but ends up in Dougie's body. So then there's the two of them, but they're all.
What happened to Cooper's original body? If a doppelganger left the lodge,
Bob is still using it. Right?
No, but Bob is infesting a doppelganger of Coop. What happened to the original Coop? There's a third body.
I think who we're seeing is the original Coop. Dougie disappeared back into the lodge, and when Coop came out of that plug, that is Coop in his original body.
Okay, makes sense.
So, I mean,
I just said that makes sense.
Who knows?
And I'll tell you, do the Joneses live in Rancho Rosa? Is that the implication?
Rancho Rosa, I think, is the neighborhood where 119 woman lives.
Right. Okay. Well, just everything's so generic. At first, that's what I thought.
But they're like sort of the negative and positive versions of that neighborhood.
Yeah.
The neighborhood looks exactly like that horrible.
Exactly. That's where I thought they were, and I thought, oh, maybe we're going to see the kid with the drunk mom again. It's like, oh no, this is Dougie's house. You know, and it's hard.
That little kid was great. That was such a sweet storyline in that woman.
Yeah.
And all the red balloons in their house and the red balloons on that white sculpture outside Dougie's office. What's going on with the red balloons?
There's, as you said, so many questions. Where, you know, what about Ashley Judd's husband? You know?
What was that? I want to know that. I loved Ashley Judd. She is so good on the show. And what is going on with her husband? I got the idea that she's somehow trying to trick Ben into sleeping with her so she can blackmail him. And who is Ben married to?
Yeah.
He's wearing a wedding ring. He's no longer married to his wife. They're clearly separated. And what that ring that Shelley Johnson's wearing around her neck, is that Leo's wedding ring? She's wearing a ring around her neck on a chain. Is that because, is Leo definitely dead and so she's wearing his wedding ring? What's going on?
Do we know for sure if Becky is dead?
Is Steven dead?
We still don't know 100%
Did Steven kill Becky? Did Steven kill himself?
Yeah, we don't know.
We have no idea.
And that key around Gersten's neck, what does that open? Does it open a lockbox just like Laura's? Is there a sparkle in that lockbox? Does sparkle help you travel between two different worlds? I don't know. Sparkle motion.
Is it the bunnies? Is it the bunnies?
Is it the bunnies? I know.
It is about the bunnies.
Okay.
Wow.
2 episodes left.
It's all coming together.
I drew a horrible version of the red room floor, but if you put all those Z's together, it makes a red room.
I get it. I get it.
I always thought the red room resembled various peaks.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
They're twin peaks.
The metaphor of the peaks.
Yeah.
All
Thank you for joining us and trying to make some sense of the madness.
I
feel like
I'm just as lost as you all.
I feel like we're the board in the beautiful mind. And you're the string tying this all together. Like that's what's going on right now. So thank you for that.
So yeah, the studios here will be closed on Labor Day. So I'm not sure when we're going to come back to do 17 and 18, but we will.
17 and 18, and then it's over.
We will return and do our best to wrap this thing up. And ideally, you know, as we end this thing, not just like we're having fun with all the micro, but I would love for us to take a step back at the macro of it all and talk about what this was about and why it came back and what Lynch wanted to get out of it.
And I think, if at all possible, we should all watch the entire third season again before that finale, because all those little hints are going to pay off. I think.
Well, y'all do that. I will be in Venice.
I have 3 seasons of television to watch this week.
I have nothing but recovery because I have surgery tomorrow. So
you're so lucky.
Everyone.
All right, break a leg.
From now until the finale, I'm going to be at home naked, masturbating, and crying in front of my television.
Just as David Lynch intended.
That's exactly what Twin Peaks is for.
Thanks for watching.